Hello.
Hey.
How are you? Very loud.
Always pleasantly surprised when technology actually works.
I know. Same. By the way, I think that means we're old. At least I am. I don't know.
Yeah. I've known you for like 20 years, so we're definitely over 20.
Yeah, like at least 20, which is sort of wild, but time moves.
You've been making some moves in the last 20 years since we met.
Yeah.
And more recently with the Blacklist. Tell us, a few who don't know, about the Blacklist.
Yeah, so the Blacklist, it started, I was a junior executive at a production company in Hollywood, and our job, it was to find good scripts and good writers. And so I surveyed my peers about their favorite unproduced screenplays and made a list of the ones that were most liked. And it turns out that if you survey a lot of people who know at least a little bit about something, they generate a pretty good list of things that are good. And a lot of those scripts started getting made. The ones that got made won a lot of awards, like 4 of the last 12 Best Pictures, and I think it's like 14 of the last 26 screenwriting Oscars. I can't remember the exact number, but like these scripts ended up doing very well as movies, and we sort of built a business on top of it.
The screenplays were discovered on the Blacklist that people would know.
Let's see, the annual list, Slumdog Millionaire, The King's Speech, Argo, Juno. Juno was a really important one. It was the number 2 script on the first list. And then 3 or 4 years later, it won the Best Screenwriting Oscar at the Oscars. But again, look.
So these are ways that people that might not have gotten found otherwise, or would have taken longer to be found.
I think that's right. It's always dangerous to say we're the reason why anything got made, like the credit goes to the artist, but I think we do a very good job of catalyzing these things into getting made. And then 7.5 years ago, we built a website that allows anybody on earth to upload their script and have it evaluated. And if it's good, we tell everybody in Hollywood, hey, this is a pretty good script. You should do something with it. And, hundreds of writers have gotten signed at major agencies and management companies, and movies have gotten made. It's gone pretty well.
I've been reminded in the comments that I have to change my glasses because I'm not D-nice. I can't wear hats, but I do have a lot of glasses.
I made a comment earlier about the glasses game that you and Chris were on.
Let's see which ones that you're going to get. No, Hollywood is extremely hip, so I might have to go extremely hip.
That works. I'm a fan. Good stuff. Yeah.
Vision lenses in here.
Big fan.
So we're here for Juneteenth. Julia was excited to celebrate. Asked me the keys to her social media, so that's fun. Thanks. And so I've invited my friends.
It's a pretty amazing thing that you've done here, Ayana. But it's also very you. Hey, I got this amazing thing. Let's share it with everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to do things. It's just good when there are people that do that.
What is justice if you're not with your homies, right?
Ain't that the truth?
So for Juneteenth, this is the first time it's a day that's spread across America. That
it feels like it.
People really know that it's happening. This is not just people who have a deep connection to their family history. Those are the communities that have been celebrating this. People who trace their lineage back generations to family members who were slaves. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about Juneteenth? Is this something that's been a part of your life before, or?
I think it's something that I've been considered. Look, I grew up in the Deep South, right? I grew up in West Central Georgia. My father was at Tuskegee in the late 60s. My grandfather was an Army cook, and my great-grandfather was born a slave. So that's 3 generations, right? I'm actually the first member of my patrilineage in the U.S. to be neither born a slave nor serve in the U.S. military. So, I've always been aware of Juneteenth. This is the first time I feel like it's a thing that's happening around me as well, though. And it was never something that I necessarily did anything about celebrating, but it was always a day that I was aware was happening that encouraged me to reflect on the reality of the history of my family and the country and the way in which those things intermingle. Maybe is the best way to describe it.
And you've been doing some really cool stuff in honor of this day, or to mark this day.
Yeah.
And sort of not just this day, but the last month has been a real reckoning for pretty much every industry with how we deal with race and equality. And so, share with folks what you.
This is another one. I just feel sort of really humbled to be a part of a team of people that were involved with this statement sort of on the occasion of Juneteenth. And in many ways, it was a declaration of our own freedom. But it was, as of launch, it was almost 1,000 Black artists. Now it's almost 2,000 Black artists who signed on to a statement that was drafted by initially a number of people coming out of the publishing and the world of academia. Look, if you want to write a statement, get the best writers on earth to write it. Start there. And if you read it at blackartistsforfreedom.com, you'll see. It's just as a piece of writing, it's brilliant. But I thought it was.
Or the group is called Black Artists for Freedom.
Black Artists for Freedom.
Out blackartistsforfreedom.com, and there's this incredible, compelling statement, and the hashtag is Imagine Black Freedom.
Or Black AFF, Black Artists for Freedom. Pretty solid. Look, if you get the best writers in the world working on something collaboratively, and it's a statement that is meant to be an umbrella statement that represents all Black artists. We're talking about writers, poets, film, television, theater, music. And it was just an incredibly ambitious statement of values, an incredibly ambitious statement of intent, an incredibly ambitious statement of community that obviously was embraced by so many people across so many disciplines. And it was humbling just to be a part of evangelizing on behalf of it in the film and television community, because again, we are stronger when we are all together, and that means in film and television, that means across the arts. And I'm really excited for the statements that follow it in each community that are more concrete when it comes to, here is what our community needs to do to live up to these values that we as a broader Black community of Black artists have said that we all share.
So tell us there's 5 main points in this statement.
You are putting me on the spot, but I can call them up in front of me.
What are these 2,000 Black artists asking?
It's generally the first is that, our cultural institutions break ties with the police. Essentially that the police, as they're currently constituted, and the police as a culture, have no business in our places of culture making and culture presentation. And that all of our organizations need to reevaluate our relationship with the police and policing with the broader goal of defunding the police. We want our cultural institutions, our cultural businesses to put their money where their mouth is. Speak not with Black Lives Matter, Black tiles on Instagram on the occasion of a Blackout Tuesday, but do it with your dollars every day of the week. As my father says, don't tell me your priorities, show me your budget. When I was a kid, I hated that expression. As I've grown older, I see its wisdom. The third tenet was to advocate for Black people. You can't assert that Black Lives Matter if your organization does not advocate for those same Black people. Those who are your employees, those who you affiliate with and work with, and those who are your audiences, whose attention you seek. The third is to get educated. We're asking those cultural institutions not just to engage in transactions related to our art, but to understand who we are as people so that they can better sell, represent, and share our work. And the final thing is to imagine Black freedom. And I think that's a critical tenet because it means that not only are we going to be in service of the corporations and these cultural institutions, but that we are able to define our freedom on its own terms. And that, in the context of a lot of culture making, means that we will need financial resources and spaces of our own where we can imagine what freedom looks like to us, as opposed to that which is decided by other people and their economic resources. So those are the 5 points. But it's, again, I want to emphasize, that's me paraphrasing. Brilliant writers wrote the actual thing, and I encourage you to go to blackartistsforfreedom.com and read it there.
Go there, and they're at @ourJuneteenth on Twitter is the account.
Right.
So when I was reading that, I got to number 5, Imagine Black Freedom.
Yeah.
And I totally teared up, because we just don't have those stories. It's hard to picture what that looks like, because we've had so little mainstream art that shows us what that looks like.
I would say this: we've all seen it, right? And I think that it's a reflection of the strength of the community and the strength that I think we have all had to have, but have also trained ourselves to have in the face of what we have to deal with. And you know, Black freedom is Black joy in my mind. And here's the thing: in a world where Black freedom exists all the time, it doesn't have to only be embodied by Black joy, right? It can be embodied by Black sadness. It can be embodied by, you know, Black bittersweetness, whatever it is. Right now, Black freedom feels like Black joy because it is the one place where we are sort of saying, despite everything that's happening in our world, I have this, and we have this together. So I think we do know what it looks like on some level, but you're right that in an ongoing way, we don't.
Yeah, on a societal level, we don't.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we have no idea.
So we were texting about this today, just like the narratives that are missing, and you had a question for me.
Yeah. So I think that Hollywood does a very bad job of like, we love science in Hollywood, right? Because it enables our science fiction narratives. But like, as it comes to climate, it's always, okay, there's an apocalypse coming, and it's bad, but there's very little hope about, okay, if we take these steps, if we organize our society this way, this is how we can alleviate the problems of climate change. So I'm just curious, when it comes to narrative and climate change, what stories would you like to see more of in Hollywood that might better address these issues?
Yeah. So one, I don't watch movies, so I don't know what movies have been made. Like a personal failing, I intend to watch movies.
You're busy literally saving the world. We here in Hollywood, speaking on behalf of the industry, we can forgive you. I'm specifically interested in what kinds of stories can we be telling?
Yeah.
That you think will sort of strike to the core of the issues or inspire the heart of the nation? As somebody who spends time talking to people about these issues all the time, I don't know. I don't know if I'm asking the question in the right way, but
I was just joking. I think, one of the few examples to the contrary that we have is Black Panther, where Kendra Pierre-Louis, who is a climate journalist, wrote an essay about that's called Wakanda Doesn't Have Suburbs. And it's in my anthology. I've co-edited this anthology of essays by women climate leaders. It's coming out in September. You can pre-order it.
Everybody buy it, or just follow me on social media, because I'll be promoting it when it comes out. So,
at All We Can Save, that's the title of the book, All We Can Save. To your point, Franklin, we have to be telling stories about what we can do. And so in Kendra's essay, she writes about how the film opens. You have this sort of aerial shot where you're flying in, and you fly in over all this lush green, and then all of a sudden, that, you're in the city. There's not urban sprawl. There's no trend. This nature and then city, and how that's this other manifestation. There's plants growing on the buildings, and it's trolley going through the town. You can just hop on, hop off, and it's just, there's this whole other vision, and it's Black. So you have this thought about we're developing all this technology, but what is it? What is it for, if not for this?
Right.
And so I just would like stories about the future where we live through climate change. That's at the base level, we have the uninhabitable earth, and we have the day after tomorrow, and we have like
right.
stories of like the worst case scenario. But I think it's really hard to put in the insane amount of work that it's going to take to address climate change without knowing like what does it look like when we get there. Like what are busting our asses for, right? So I'm like, and it's just like, great, we don't want the bad version of the future, but like we're running away from that, but like not toward anything. So we're like we're like strolling.
Got it. No, I think that's as we say in the industry, that's a good note, and one that I'll keep an eye out for material like that.
So I'm working on a book with Chris Jackson, who is our tonight, that's tentatively titled "What If We Get It Right."
I love it.
So, because we might not, but like, what if we did? Wouldn't it be great?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I love it though.
Thanks. Still workshopping it. I like your reaction. I'll take that as.
Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Well, I look forward to your list of movies I should watch to inspire my book and become culturally.
We should talk about it. Yeah, absolutely. I think it probably looks a lot like Wakanda, in fairness. I think you may already be there.
Okay, great. I'll just I'll just annotate oh my God, that'd be so fun. I'll just annotate the script of.
Yeah, with stills from the movie. Just be like that, and like that.
This, and then we get it done.
It works. Yeah.
Chris Jackson, if you're still listening, this is the
problem solved.
So we had some questions in the comments about can we say the organization again? And it's Black
Artists for Freedom.
Black Artists for Freedom, and .com or .org?
.com. blackartistsforfreedom.com.
Read their statement. It's really beautiful. So many people worked really hard on and I think it's important because it's giving us what we can do. It's like these are things that we can all get behind as artists, as storytellers, as gatekeepers in Hollywood to make some of these changes. I think oftentimes it's like in this tumultuous moment when people are like, what do I do? I'm one of the good ones. What do I do? And you'd be like, here's the list of 5 things.
Well, here's a very high level list of things, right? I think that it's important that I sort of, reassert. This is in many ways a statement of values and a statement of intent for a sort of pan-cultural, group of artists. What needs to happen in terms of individual steps, I think will likely be determined in each individual discipline by the sort of stakeholders in the discipline and the activists, frankly, whose shoulders I think we all stand on and whose sort of inspiration we take, as a continuation of the Black radical tradition. So this is just the beginning, right? Like in many ways, these are just words, and actions will follow on any number of fronts they're just necessary. And look, the other great thing about this fundamentally is this is one of those rare cases where doing all of these things will actually make the business of these arts better. You can do well financially by doing good, which, there aren't a ton of places where that's true in the world, but this is definitely one.
I would ask how we can support your work, but I know one answer, which is that you're now producing films.
Yeah, we are now producing films. Go see them.
Miles of money to Franklin, he will produce more incredible films.
Yes, I mean, look, if anybody out there is looking to invest in film and television, slide into the DMs. But I think more broadly, when we make a good movie, check it out. But even more than that, support movies that you love. Don't worry about where they come from or where you're watching them. Find the things that you love, and follow the director, follow the screenwriter, and find and build community around these things, and support the artists who are making the things that give you joy.
I love it. Thanks for all you're doing and for
Thank you.
coding pop culture for me.
Thank you for all that you're doing. It's the least I can do while you're literally busy saving the oceans in the world.
Well, I'll talk to you very soon, I'm sure, but with fewer people. Okay.
Exactly. Bye. See you soon. Bye-bye.